Hi everyone, I'm Alex Carpenter.
I'm Elizabeth Van Royen,
and this is the Firestarters podcast.
1, 2, 3, 4.
In this episode, we'll talk about the opportunities coming out of the new normal for the hybrid remote workforce. We'll also discuss how important wellness is, whether you work remotely or in the office. But first, I'd like to introduce you to our guest, Scott Ellice-Flint. He is one of the co-founders of Recess, a startup tackling the future of work. They help people do their best work, wherever they are, by enabling individuals and companies to build beautiful and functional hybrid workplaces. Let's dive into the show. Welcome, Scott. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Alex. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today. And Elizabeth as well. Really great to chat to you.
Amazing. Well, first off, I was thinking about your answer to this question and I have no idea where you're going to go with it. So that's going to be fun. How would you even define your industry? Like, what is your industry?
Yeah, good question. Initially some might have seen our company, which is Recess, as a soundproof booth, right? That's initially how we first started. And it was a single soundproof booth to basically solve the problems of the hybrid office or the open plan office, which was pre-pandemic, which was a big problem of where we're going to take enough places to take phone calls or Zoom calls or things like that. But as we progressed through the pandemic, Will and I, my co-founder, saw this opportunity of really solving for the future of work in general, starting with soundproof booths. Then from there, moving on to all other ergonomic furniture or furniture for a hybrid office. And then further on from that, solving the problems of the future of work.
Future of work is definitely a useful umbrella term. Let's dive into that a little bit more. What do you think has happened in work? Obviously we've got the COVID has changed things and people now like hybrid and remote have become common words. But from your perspective, what have you seen the big changes that are going to last more than, a year or two?
Yeah, I've heard it a couple of times before, but I'll say it again. The pandemic and COVID in general was a big accelerator. There were these trends that were already happening, but it was an accelerator towards these trends. So like some trends, for example, are, the future of work has changed, more remote work, more hybrid work, more wellness at work, more e-commerce purchasing online as well, to people's homes. These things were already, there was huge tailwinds before the pandemic, and then the pandemic kind of pushed them forward a little bit more. That's kind of tailwinds that I saw, and through the pandemic as well. And I think that, obviously they're not going away anytime soon as well.
I see that some companies are pushing back on this, like the Apples of the world and stuff, and saying like, you have to come into the office. That tension there, do you see that making a divide at all between like the corporates that are really desperate for talent and the ones that have maybe a stronger brand, and like what opportunities are coming out of that, seeing where employees head?
Yeah, this is a good question. The question is what is the future of work to different companies? To Apple, what is the future of work? To Atlassian, what is the future of work? And I think the answer is the future of work is whatever that company decides it is, right? And it's different for everyone. The future of work probably isn't remote. It's probably not in office. It's probably not hybrid, but certain companies will pick different things that suit them the best. That's what we've seen through just speaking to our customers, but also what we've seen through the different research as well. There's this big tension happening right now in the media where Elon Musk is demanding all Tesla workers come back, and maybe that's a way to kind of get rid of 10% of their workforce, because 10% might not come back. But one thing is for sure, that employees will start leading and determining what they want. So some employees will want to go into the office, and so there'll be offices for them to go into. Some employees will want to work remote because it just works for them, and that's something that a lot of companies will set up to do as well. So in general, it's basically the future of work is whatever I guess the employees want, and then therefore they'll choose the companies that offer what they want.
And Scott, I think it's a really interesting point around, the future of work will be very flexible. And as we start getting more towards a hybrid and digital remote workforce, what do you see are some of the risks around that? Obviously, everyone being online more, that creates a whole question of security. I've also heard from some friends around their companies monitoring their emails or their Teams messages. So there's that lack of trust. What are your thoughts around that, and I guess what potential risks and opportunities could arise from it?
Yeah. There's obviously a question of security, and like the most obvious one is how do we know, what's being done on employees' laptops is highly secure. And I guess the answer is, well, we were always, before COVID, we were always, consultants were always flying around the country doing work on their laptops as well and things like that. So, there's software that, helps track that and also helps make that secure. So there's something called MDM, which is mobile device management, which you can easily insert into your, employees' laptops when they get onboarded. That helps with that security a little bit more. It's just something that we're just going to be learning and working out on the fly more and more as we go. But one thing's for sure is that this software is like progressing leaps and bounds, and we've seen recently like some companies are tracking their employees as well, and whether that's right or wrong, that's for the employees and the companies to determine. But this future of work is also, I think, built on trust as well, and so it's not so much about what hours you're logging or anything like that. It's like what's your output for what you're doing as well. So for our company, for example, we have a pretty hybrid approach. So we go into the office 1 to 2 days a week, and we're in working from home 1 to 2 days a week. We make sure that we always get together online or in office in the morning, so everyone knows what they're doing. And then at the end of the day, we'll get together again and see what the output is as well, and see if we can help in any way. And if there's any, issues that arise throughout the day, we're always, the management of our company, even though our company is still, 8 to 9 people at the moment, the management of our company is still always there, a phone call away, ready to help out if someone needs help.
And that is, I think that's a fantastic way to keep everyone accountable. But there is also the risk of with more remote work and with more flexibility, I guess it's harder to turn off sometimes. So you find you're working potentially longer into the evening or on the weekends or on holiday because you always are online or able to be online. Just touching on what you mentioned earlier around wellness, what do you see from the wellness side of things that are being incorporated or could be incorporated into the remote working environment?
Yeah, so I think this is a topic that will just get bigger and bigger as time goes on, right? And it's not just wellness at work, it's wellness for everyone. Wellness is such a big part of the discussion today, and so it should be, because there's so much that, so much information that people are taking in at the moment, and so much, and, people are changing their lives so much at the moment that, wellness is the forefront. So, things like, daily check-ins with managers, and even things like, making sure that your employees are, equipped with not only like the tools they need, but also, like the meditation tools they need, or other things they need as well. Like, I've seen some really interesting companies start up that offer counseling to employees as well remotely. And, I think this is going to be bigger and bigger as we go as well. But, and then another part of wellness is like being remote all the time maybe isn't so good for team wellness in general. So, companies are going to have to start to figure out, okay, like if we are remote, how do we get together every couple of months to get the team more aligned and get them meeting each other as well. And I think that there'll be industries popping up around that, where whether it's they're in, big hotels, or I know like Atlassian gets everyone together every couple of months in hotel rooms and stuff around the world. So I think there'll be huge, opportunities and industries around that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. It's quite interesting. Everyone has their own, release when you're working from home. Alex and I were just talking before you jumped on. I've got my Peloton behind me. So it's my kind of way of getting off at the end of the day and just jumping on and sweating it out. But it's just so important to kind of keep that at the top of mind when remote workforces are becoming more frequent.
Exactly. I'm the exact same. I have a Swift, which is set up. Swift is you can connect your bike to a machine that kind of gets you into almost a metaverse gamified version of cycling. And that really helps a lot as well. I do that every single day. And, that's something that is almost a religion to me now as well.
I think that's all the future of work stuff, and how you're both empowered to, take control of your own health in that way. And so you're choosing to make these decisions. And so you, like Scott, it's interesting that you're the CEO, like you're the co-founder, right? Like you could do anything, and yet you're still making the exact same decision that Libby is. It's like, we're going to both cycle at home, even though like Scott could be having 2-hour lunches where he's like riding around all over town. And it's like, actually, there's not a huge difference. So it might be a small example of like, that is best practice, like having a bike inside connected to a version of a metaverse or a spin class actually is what a lot of people want. Maybe not everybody, but a lot.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a trade-off with time versus, I guess, seeing other people as well. So like you get, like if you go and do a social fitness thing, so go to the gym, you can go to a spin class, or you can go cycle with your friends. Like that's not only a great thing for exercise, but it's also a great thing to connect with others, right? And when you work remote, like that's a really important part of I guess mental health as well, connecting with others. So it's that trade-off, but at the very same time, going on the Peloton for an hour is really simple and quick, because you can just roll out of bed, spend 2 minutes putting on your clothes, getting on the Peloton for an hour, having a shower, and then doing some more stuff. You can go do a meditation session, you can go read for a little bit, and then you can start work at 9, and you've got so much time there that maybe before the pandemic or when you were going into the office, you were spending an hour and commuting or something like that. So it's that trade-off between time, getting the exercise, getting what you want to do in, not just exercise, but whatever, meditation, prayer, reading, learning, whatever you want to do. But also balancing that with the social connection as well, trying to get that social connection in as well, I think is really important.
I'm thinking now, if like in the future of work, what's the big problem that if you could solve, it would be the easiest thing in the world to sell? Like if you're trying to sell like, oh, all of your employees should have Pelotons, it's like, oh man, it's pretty hard to convince a corporate to, get every one of their employees a Peloton. It's like, what in that context of future of work is something that you think would just fly off the shelves if you could solve it?
Remote work is amazing for young people because it means that they don't have to be in the expensive cities where where the work is going on. So Sydney, for example, is very expensive for a lot of young people. So they can go live on the Central Coast or down south as well. But then at the same time, like you're not getting the connection to your co-workers, which is such an important thing. So, going back to it, I think there is a lot more to be worked out around even, almost like mini cities, for example, or mini enclaves where, young workers can get that connection, do their fitness or something like that together, or like after work, log off and do something together as well. And then feel like they've still got that social connection to workers of the same type as them. So I think there's still a lot to be worked out there. And I think there's companies in the US that are leading the charge there. I even saw recently, like last week, that Adam Newman has started up this new company called Flow, and I think that he's trying to solve for one of those that exact problem, which is prices of housing is too expensive. Young people want to almost have communities within these housing, so that's what, like, no one really knows what Flow is, but I think that's what he's trying to tackle as well.
And I was having this conversation with someone the other day, and I can't remember what it's called, but do you remember during the thick of lockdowns when there was that app where you'd log on to a chat room and you could listen to anyone anyone's conversation. And just coming back to the kind of the social community element of it, I thought that was a really interesting, case study of when there's, an opportunity to just go in and when you're not getting that interaction or that social connection, typically throughout the day, you can just go and, chat with random people essentially. But I found it quite interesting that that did drop off and it kind of rose so quickly, but then fell so quickly as well. Do you see any opportunity for something kind of similar to that to pop up? Or do you think that was more of just a COVID fad?
Yeah, so I think that the reason why, like personally, I think the reason why it popped up and then kind of dropped off was because people are so sick of Zoom all the time, right? It was like we had Zoom fatigue after a while. We were like, we were doing Zoom 9 till 12, and then from 12 to 1 we just wanted to have our lunch break, where we didn't want to jump onto a chat room and be on Zoom again, and then be on Zoom after that. So I think that people stopped engaging with those just because it was just Zoom fatigue, right? But then back to your question is like, are there any, what's the future of that? So Alex and I have talked in length about the metaverse, for example, and what that holds. And I think I think that whether we like it or not, I think that that's the inevitable future for everyone. So maybe we won't be meeting right now on our Zoom laptops. We'll be meeting in the metaverse. We'll have VR headphones on. I know it's very, very clunky right now, but one thing that tells me that I think that that's the future is that all the big tech companies, Google, Facebook, not Amazon, but Microsoft, they're all like pivoting their businesses hard towards that. And I think it's only a matter of time before we start interacting more and more in the metaverse, which will give us a little bit more than what we have right now. So I think that, whether we like it or not, a lot of people are very hesitant of it because it has these negative connotations, the metaverse. But as long as we know that, okay, if we move more and more towards the metaverse, then we need to move more and more towards the social connection and the real world as well. And I think there'll be more, I guess, platforms that are built around like, okay, how do we get into nature? Like I'm wearing an Oura ring right now, which tracks my sleep. Well, why can't this track my time that I spend in nature as well? For things like that, that I think will become bigger and bigger as we move more and more into the metaverse.
Yeah, the metaverse just scares me. It's I just keep thinking of, a nightmare when everyone's just plastered on the couch with their VR headsets and no one moves or has any sort of real life connection anymore. It just feels like some sort of sci-fi movie. But I can definitely see the benefits of it as well, especially when we're doing so much of this already. It would be so much more incredible to be able to do it where we're actually, talking face to face while, sitting at our desks rather than looking at each other on a screen.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with all of this, what would you be if you hadn't had Recess, you were starting from scratch with all of this dynamic change happening? What would you build? What company would you build? What opportunity would you go after if you had just, let's say, unlimited resources and all the time in the world? What's the big thing that you would try and dent?
Oh, good question. I mean, I want to say I want to go after the future of work. Maybe Recess, maybe stepping back, maybe like initially a soundproof booth, and then Recess wasn't like the first company that we'd build or the first product that we'd build as well. But I think the future of work touches so many topics and so many people, and I think we've talked about it. I think like, yes, the future of work is remote, yes, it's hybrid, but like it's also wellness. It's also all these other things that we need to think about for people as well. So I'd probably go after a future of work company, but maybe it might be a SaaS tool first or something like that, and then design physical products later, because physical products are hard. Like Alex has heard me talk about it a lot over the last 2 years. Like physical products are hard to make and to design, and then to get out here into Australia as well.
That also sounds kind of like the SaaS to run or build a charter city that then has, the future of work embedded into it. I imagine that would be quite fun. But if we go back to like today, right now, what are the things that are stopping? Where's the resistance that you see? Like when you're selling, your solutions to effectively future of work problems, what are you hearing back from corporates that are like, oh man, they just don't get it? What do they don't get that's stopping that from happening now?
Yeah, I want to say this before. This is one of the biggest areas of confusion within startups, or like, I guess, problems. But it's, how do I build a startup that's going to change the world, but at the same time, how do I survive today? And those things can be very different things. Like a startup that's going to change the world is like building rocket ships like Elon Musk does, but not everyone can be Elon Musk, because like he was in Silicon Valley, he built an incredible startup, PayPal, before that. He was able to access so much funding and things like that. So like, because of all those, like, you're not going to be Elon Musk. So, I would say to any future entrepreneur, and like, try and get some small wins that kind of lead you towards where you want to go. Like if you want to change the world, if you want to build rocket ships, go and build, fireworks first, or that firework company first, or something. Or not like, but you know what I mean? Like a firework company first, make that a small win, lead up to it. And so many startups, and I'm not sure if that's the right way to go, because a lot of VCs might say, well, there's VC funding, we can get you there, but I see a lot of VCs like fail, there's VC funded startups fail quite badly, because they've gone and like done something completely outrageous that people don't actually want just yet. So maybe people do want startup cities, but they just don't want them yet. So go and build a 3D printed home for a startup city first, or something like that. I think like, and that's the way I think about it. Like a lot of people say, oh, well, Recess is just a office furniture company. Well, it's like, well, no, this is the start of it. This is the start of the office furniture company. Like, and what we're doing is we're building, we're building the business. So like we're efficient. We don't need VC funding to keep going. So then we can go on to hopefully do the bigger and better things as well.
I think that's such a good point. And I want to hear Libby's take on this as well, because the whole idea of like the charter city, it's like, oh, 3D print a house first. It's like that kind of idea of like, well, charter cities are an interesting idea, but Australia's also got an enormous shortage of property at the moment. And there's like so many towns that desperately need housing, and construction has all sorts of problems. And so like Libby, you get to work with a whole bunch of different of these kinds of verticals that are doing big, in inverted commas, boring things. But it's like, well, these are the things that people need. Like they're not sexy, like, a Dow run chartered city, but like, where is it today? And where do you see the opportunities of like doing stuff now that kind of get us one step closer to that, very fancy looking future? How do you take that?
Yeah, I'm a big believer of, timing is everything, and pushing people towards something that, even if you're, 99% certain that in 5 years that is going to be what people want, you can tell them that till you're blue in the face, but until they realize that themselves, you're not going to make money from it, or you're not going to be able to develop anything around it. So I think, similar to what, Scott said around, you can give startups, unlimited money, but if they don't have the ability to run a business and the customer demand and the fundamentals in place, which often comes from building something that is boring and that people really need, but it's not sexy and it doesn't look perfect and it's not super pretty, but it solves a problem. And then once you've got that, you build stage 2, which might be a little, halfway between. Maybe you start incorporating some sexier technology or whatever it is. And then when everyone is ready, then you can kind of build it on. But it's, behavioral shifts are so difficult to start until they're, starts becoming some mass momentum in the market, which is, really it takes a long time. And so, you think about how every large piece of technology that, we use today, it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't an overnight adoption. It takes time to change consumers' behaviors and habits. So yeah, I think starting small, baby steps, and building your way up to the future goal is how startups should look at it, and how many of them do, which is what I love seeing when I look at nice sustainable businesses that aren't trying to build $1 billion business from day one.
Exactly. Unless you're Elon Musk, and then you can get the funding and then you can keep going. But
Yeah.
but and there are some people in Australia that get that as well. But you have to have the track record. And if you don't have the track record, just get the small wins first. Keep chipping away. Have in the back of your mind where you want to go, and then over time people will realize that you're actually going there.
100%.
Yeah, I love that. And I think actually, to even nail this point a bit more, the first thing that a business needs, any business needs, customers. Like, customers are essential. So if you want to sell a dream to your customers, well, first sell them like a toothbrush. Like, you can even have a toothbrush that's marketed directly to your future customers. So it's like, okay, these, Dow crazy charter cities startup folk, I want to sell a toothbrush to them, not to make money off the toothbrush, that business can break even, but to get into their conversations and get them as customers and build that database, and then go, hey, we've now pivoting from a toothbrush company into the next step, whatever step 2 is, and you can slowly get there. But the first point is customers. So even with Scott's business, like Recess, it's like, well, we're selling furniture, and it's like, oh, that's boring. And it's like, well, but they got the customers. If you want to impact the future of work, then you need workplaces to be your customer. So just sell them what they need. If they need a soundproof booth, just sell it to them, because then they're your customers. And then once you've got them, then you can go into all sorts of different horizons. So, I mean, I know you've done this, Scott, and that's why I think you'll be successful, is because you're not wedded to the idea of this, crazy future 10 years from now. You're willing to hold that lightly and go, all right, let's get customers today. So what other verticals do you see? Like, now you've got the customers, you're selling them furniture, there's other things that you probably won't talk about that you're developing, but it's like other things those customers are looking to buy that there aren't solutions for.
Yeah. So I won't go into too much detail, but we've got I'm literally working on this now. We're about to launch things in the next couple of months and stuff. Alex, you've seen a little bit of it as well, but like I said, the future of work is so many different things to so many people. We want to capture a lot of those things. So whether it's in office, whether it's remote, whether it's wellness, whether it's, whether it's flexibility as well, we want to capture so many things. So, our first strategy was, okay, win the office. What needs to happen in the future of work in the office right now? And right now it's, getting the right equipment and furniture to the office. So that means soundproof booths. That means flexibility with the office furniture. That means, ease of getting it in there, ease of getting it out if you need to as well. Do those things. The next is win the home, what kind of equipment do you need at home? That includes laptops, and includes VR headsets as well. Next is people are still going to need to be around each other. So what other things are there in terms of co-working and stuff as well? So is there a need for almost a neighborhood co-working space? Like we said, there's a lot of co-working spaces that are in the city right now, but a lot of people are working from home. So but they want to kind of get that social connection. So why are there no Anytime Fitness or Plus Fitnesses for co-working spaces? That's something that we're interested in as well. And allows for people to get that social connection, the membership as well, plus still being within their neighborhood, and potentially a little bit more affordable than a co-working space in the city, WeWork and things. And then also, going forward, it's wellness is such a big part of work in the future. How do we bring that into, what we're doing now with equipment, furniture, home, office, flexibility as well. And that's kind of some other phases as well. But, we'll see how we go. We'll just keep testing, playing things out. We'll launch things. It might fail. We'll take that back. We'll go again. But Will and I are very much long-term thinkers, like as you can see, but we're also like very much in the here and now as well, and really obsessed with building a business in the here and now. So that's to answer your question.
Beautiful. I'm conscious of the time, so I mean, I'm just opening it up. This whole series is about trying to excite people, and like we've covered so many topics, and it's so easy to take like a step to the right and then Armageddon, doomsday, and especially with all the plates and the tensions that are moving around the world, I think that's a very easy trap to fall into. So on the positive note of like the excitement that you feel for the future and what that could look like, is there anything that you would want to give the audience to give them the confidence to take that next step so that they're building the future rather than just doom scrolling as they watch the world fall around them? Like, that's the thing that we really need to be like tackling here, is like, just, you can help. Like, it's not that dark. There's things to be done, problems to solve, and you can help. What would be your message, Scott?
Yes. So I think I've touched on it throughout the podcast, but it's literally just start. You know, if you want to build rocket ships, if you want to build startup cities, just start really, really, really small, and start with building a little community around it, or start with building a product around it. But like, have that long-term vision in your mind. Let others know the long-term vision, but start really small. Keep chipping away at that business, and then also seek out others that have done what you want to do as well. And most of the time, those people will give you their time if you can show that you're also very committed to what you want to do. So seek out others, get time in their calendar and their diary, and have coffee with them. And they're more than willing to share their secrets as well. So just start and then seek out others, and that'll help with your motivation, I think.
Amazing. Any last questions from you, Libby, that we didn't touch on?
No, I think that was very comprehensive, and I'm excited. Scott, you've got me motivated now.
Well, yeah, that's, I mean, like, hopefully you can see a little bit of our vision now. It's hard to see it sometimes when, especially, when we're talking to others, but it's good. We've got a great team around us that sees the vision as well, and they're so committed. So it's great. And you can find us at recess.com.au as well, and reach out if anyone listening wants to have a chat as well. More than willing to have a chat.
Amazing. So glad to have you on. Thank you so much for all your wisdom. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey, thanks for listening. If this episode fanned your flame, we'd love to help. Just go to guildofontrepreneurs.com. We are a decentralized community ensuring that every entrepreneur is supported, and we'd love to see you there. Until next time, bye.